Hello, viewers. My name is Adam.
No, I'm Aaron.
This is Give Me Productions. Bring you another movie review.
I didn't really think where I was going to fall with this particular film. And the film being The Little Mermaid.
From Disney.
I gotta admit, when it comes to Disney projects, and specifically the animated features, I always felt as though The Little Mermaid was probably one of his weaker films. I understand it's a global phenomenon for certain individuals. It was definitely...
It helped revitalize Disney during the Renaissance.
Exactly. But as far as I was concerned, I didn't really care for the story of Ariel.
So going ahead, and on to the fact that many of these live-action remakes from Disney animated movies that started back with Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion, which gave the go-ahead to Disney to start remaking some of their classics. A lot of those have been many more misses than they have been hits.
They've been, let's be honest, when it comes right down to it, a lot of those live-action remakes were literally just the hollowed-out variations of the original magic that went into those animated productions.
Because translating between animation and live-action, there's a unique expressiveness that's just sometimes
it
not
gets
captured.
lost in translation when trying to adapt it for a realistic medium.
So, what brings us to actually coming around and officially watching our first live-action Disney remake in theaters for The Little Mermaid? For long story short, the promotion makes it feel like a bigger deal than it has been in the past.
And to be honest with you, it kind of is. Why? Because unlike a lot of the remakes that were done for Disney, this one, its changes comes in the form of the aesthetic value of its main character.
Now, mind you, that change in look and aesthetic has drew a lot of controversy. Mainly due to the fact that the original Ariel from the anime movie
and from the original story itself.
Well, actually, the original short story don't necessarily describe the mermaid at all because it's a short story and it was really just a 15-year-old mermaid
by Hans Christian for y'all. Just
Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah,
that because of the mere fact that was from Denmark and the anime movie depicted a redhead Caucasian. There was let's just say there's been a lot of controversy.
Exactly, and that was to be expected, considering that these characters are beloved icons, and depending on which version you're introduced to becomes almost a part of the zeitgeist. So at the end of the day, where does this film fall? Well, right off the bat, the story that you're following in this movie is very much a faithful rendition of the story that was presented in the animated feature, i.e. that the story itself centers itself on the character of Ariel, a princess who happens to be a mermaid living in the waters, who has these large aspirations of understanding the world of the surface world where the humans live, and who has a longing to understand and want to be amongst them.
And like the story that transpired from the original Hans Christian short story and the anime movie, she makes a deal with the sea witch Ursula to grant her the ability to become a human, so she can fall in love with a human prince that she so happens to save, and she has a short amount of time to make things possible so that she can live amongst the humans. Basically the structure and a lot of the major points are realized and faithfully, but there are some subtle changes that are hinted at that gives it its own identity.
Mostly revolve around certain characters or certain particular character developments, or that would push them along their journey. In this particular one, unlike the animated variation of Ariel in the original Disney classic, this variation of Ariel isn't so much drawn towards the concept of just trying to find a suitable man that she gravitates to. Is more on the concept that she is an explorer trying to expand her horizons, and then that is also something that is translated to her love interest being Prince Eric, who seems to be a kindred spirit.
and the setting that from the animated movie, that was supposed to have been an Italian region.
This one is more of a fictional realization of the Caribbean area.
Something in which the animated film actually kind of have more visualization from it. So this
it
film
makes
is more of a
sense.
rectify of highlighting that aspect as the correct region of which the animated film should have done in the first place. But there are still certain like expansions or explorations of the new monarchy, this new region in general, and some certain characters should have been explored more.
Yeah, i.e. more, I would say, this particular version, there's a lot of emphasis, and actually it was also something that was in the original animated series, film. It was a focus more on the human world than it is mostly on that of the merfolk's realm and the mer people themselves. I really wish this film did a little bit more exploration on their front, a little bit more than they did on the aspects of the surface world.
Especially when the fact that they highlight King Triton. His many daughters are basically a representation of the seven seas.
Yep.
There's no exploration on the wider scope of the ocean's front.
Exactly. What are the really responsibilities of the mermaids themselves? How is their society structured? Other than the mere fact that it is obviously a royal society hierarchy, but it's like a little bit more detail on the ins and goings, and each individual themselves would have been a little bit appreciated more if they had given this, I guess, a little bit more of a runtime in order to explore it on those aspects.
But when it came to focusing on the overall structure of what was presented in the animated film, we still feel as though it's still a solid watch, because of how well they were able to, at least what they were able to recreate. Character-wise, Halle Baily as Ariel.
It's spot on. She truly embodies that character. To be honest, aside from an aesthetic point of view, i.e. just the way she looks, and even that, still
Basically, the only difference is her skin tone.
That's really it. At the end of the day, Halle Baily embodies the character of Ariel. A very naive, but at the same time hopeful, jubilant individual with great dreams and a lot of love to give.
There's a lot of Halle Bailey's expressive qualities basically resonates really well with the characters on screen.
Honestly does.
Every chance they get, despite the mere fact that her character is literally supposed to be mute, when she becomes human, they find ways of making sure that if you hear her voice, because Halle Baily,
when it comes down to it, Halle Bailey's strongest aspect to her variation of Ariel that I feel as though the original really didn't do is that she is truly expressing her emotions through her vocal range. You truly understand her emotions and her drives through her voice, especially in her delivery of her songs.
The actor who plays Prince Eric, Jonah Hauer-King, as far as most of the live action at Princess goes, he is more of a favorable on my front. Many of the actors, they do their job well, especially what was given. What I like about this more so with this Prince Eric, is that the chemistry between him and Ariel is very strong and very
it feels more organically done than it was done in the original variation, where in that one it's almost really like a shotgun love affair, where it was just like that. There was no real answer as to words why these two individuals really come together.
Before the stuff is just a contract.
Exactly. In this one, it really does feel as though their love is something that blossoms through a mutual understanding and respect of one another.
It's Ursula, played by Melissa McCarthy.
I was very impressed with what she delivered. I do feel as though it's not nearly to the same expressiveness as you did with the original animated variation, but what is given to you through her performance and how they are able to realize this character on screen is some impressive work in and of itself.
Especially with the case of, we talk about contracts, the way they decided to do the contracts, and without really going into spoilers much, a lot of reason why Little Mermaid, even in the animated film, gets a lot criticized because of Ariel's naivete. They do go more in an effort to more vilify Ursula in this film to make it more so that she is a very clear antagonist in this movie. Another standout cast member is Daveed Diggs' Sebastian.
This character was hilarious from from when it was first introduced to the very end. I absolutely love this variation of Sebastian. There is a certain quality with a lot of the other, I guess, animal-like characters in this movie, considering this is a live-action retelling of the anime classic, where in that version, the animal characters were expressive through the means of animation. In this one, because
it's still
animation with visual effects and the way that CGI works. But it's always that worry of the uncanny valley when you have hyper realism attributed to these particular animal-like characters. You get that to an extent, but it's not nearly as bad as it was done in certain other outings, i.e., I guess, The Lion King, where it's like there was absolutely nothing helping that one. They went way too far in one direction. And this one,
they try to have it too. It's just that mere fact that thankfully the voice work, the performance,
exactly,
they really do a lot more of the heavy lifting as far as delivering, expressing these characters. The rest of the cast really is very much more multicultural film than what people might expect, despite the race change of Ariel. Especially with the mere fact that the setting of being more the Caribbean, a fictionalized fantasy version of Caribbean.
Exactly.
Caribbean
you
during
can't
that time
stress that
period.
enough. Especially with the time period that this is supposed to be in. It's like, okay. I'm happy that these individuals can have it this way. I wish it
fantasy.
Exactly.
The production side of things, because they decided to go full force on the Caribbean side, they do a nice job of the more natural environments.
I will say that a lot of the more beautiful aesthetics that are introduced in this film are mostly
on the surface world.
Exactly. So it's very heavy-hitting on that. When it comes to below the surface in the water aspects, especially with the mermaid scenes themselves and just with all the aquatic aspects, it did leave a lot wanting, and that has to do with a lot of the contrast in environmental effects and lighting when it comes to certain scenes. At certain parts, I would say that it just felt it was too empty at certain areas, or it just didn't feel as naturally organic as it could have been, especially when you compare to other outings in Disney where they did do other things that were close to us, i.e. Pirates of the Caribbean, especially Stranger Tide, where they did mermaids. And that one, I feel as though the mermaid effects in that movie were far better than what you actually had in this film. I do appreciate the lively colors and the unique details they did in this one, especially when you look at Ariel's aspects compared to a lot of her sisters, or her sisters compared to her. Those are cool, but I feel as though those effects were far better done in a movie like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Which is strange, the fact that on Stranger Tides and this share the same director, Rob Marshall. So, and the reason they brought him on, not because he already did handle Disney mermaids, but he is mostly a musical director for film. The music aspect on the Little Mermaid actually
on par.
It really is the most spotlight for this movie.
Especially when you also understand that they did add in new songs in here, and I feel as though actually one of the newest songs they put in here was probably one of my favorites that came out this film.
Yeah, for the first time when you hear it, that is actually when this movie really clicked as far as expressing its own identity, differentiating itself from the animated film and translating to a live action version. The other the returning songs like Part of the World, Poor Unfortunate Souls, and Kiss the Girl, and also Under the Sea. Some of them are about them. They're altered to the point that it erases a lot of problematic or specifically the objectifying nature of some of those songs, and basically updates them for the more modern sensibilities. the real essence of those songs are still retained.
Yeah, especially when you for the one song from Halle Baily, "Part of Your World." I feel as though I absolutely love her rendition of it more so than I did from the original version. I feel as though
Very
incredibly
exuberant
powerful
and very exuberant and really feeling the her
her raw power and her
character.
her drive. You really understand exactly where she's coming from and what she really wants. Where I feel as though it was said better by somebody else, where the original anime variation made that song feel very melancholy and long. It had a sense of longing for it. And Halle Bailey's it's a little bit more urgency, a little bit more stakes put on it, where she feels though she has a need, a drive to act.
Despite some of the controversy aside and some of the things that could have been expressed better. If it was given a lot more long time, I would say, because based on entertainment value alone, I say this is a good movie.
I would concur. If you didn't watch the original animated film, if you didn't watch that version, then and this is your first time actually being exposed to Disney's telling of the Little Mermaid, then there is no real difference at that point. You'll get the same magic that you would have experienced from that film. Vice versa, I feel as though this movie doesn't hamper on that one, and that one doesn't really hamper too much.
Pick your flavor.
Exactly.
Is actually what you're saying, unless you have some problems with very rudimental qualities.
And at that point, that's really a you problem at that point. So yeah. Take what you want.
But yeah, that was our review for Disney's The Little Mermaid live action 2023.
As always, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell down there at the bottom for notifications if you want to get more videos like this coming to you. Also, we have our outreaches on Twitter, Instagram,
and Facebook for social media outlets that we don't necessarily post on our channel because of there's too much stuff out there to really keep
and not enough time to do it.
Again, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
See you later.